Good morning. Thank you for joining me. For those of you that do subscribe and have been wondering where I am, I have a broken toe and re-injured some stress fractures on my foot, so I can't hardly walk. But we're trying our best. I've tried for 2 days to get this done and show you this cute project. But it was an hour and 40-minute long video, and that isn't going to work. So we're going to try this again. What we're doing today is this darling little basket. It's so nice to give your gift, whatever, cocoa mix, candy, a jar of homemade salsa, pickles, whatever. It's so nice to deliver in these little things. And I got the pattern off of Facebook. It was called Quilting Digest, I believe. And the link worked, which is unusual. And I was able to print off the pattern. If you would like the pattern, it is Hugs and Holly. And just go to www.redroosterfabrics.com and download. It's under Pattern Gallery, Current Patterns, and labeled Hugs and Holly Recipes. So that's where you'll find this. It's by Kathy Muller of the Wooden Bear. So this is her pattern. It's not mine. But I'm going to show you how to make it with a little improvising. If you don't want to get the pattern, I'll be glad to tell you what you need. This is considered B fabric. This is considered A, and the black is considered C. Okay? I'm going to put the camera down now and show you. Okay, this is going to be my B fabric. You will cut out of the B fabric a 9 by 12. 9 by 12. I also cut a 1.5 by 13 for my handle. 1.5 by 13. 9 by 12. Then if you do it exactly like the pattern calls for, you will need 3" by 9. 2 of them. And also, out of my black, I have my lining. And my lining is a 9, excuse me, 9 by 15. 9 across and 15. That's for our lining. Then out of our, what we'll call A fabric, I know you can't see, but this has a real pretty little pattern to it. I have 2.5 inches by 9, 2 of them. Then I also have a 2" by 13 for the other part of my handle. You will have a 3/4 inch wide by 12 inches piece. I put a piece of Pellon 2-sided fusible stabilizer. And when you put it in between, run it in your tube, the 12 inches is so you have room here and not bulk where you're going to sew it. And you'll just run that through your tube and then iron it, and it's there. you'll need that. You will need also an 11 by 17 piece of batting. I used regular batting. The pattern calls for a product from buyannies.com, and it is, they call it soft and stable, and I don't know what that product is, and I didn't order it, but I used a regular piece of batting, and it held up real good. It stands up nice. And with that stabilizer in the handle stands up just perfect. So just remember, a regular piece of batting will work fine. This is all you need. Very quickly, a 9 by 12 on your main, we'll call this our main fabric, our B fabric. I think they want you to put your predominant and then a lighter at the top. But what we're not going to do today is use the black, these strips. But if you want to do it like the pattern says and you get the pattern, you will need your two 3 by 9s. But it is, it's very, very hard to twist this up and try to get one down, and one up, one down, one up. And mine doesn't vary very much, you know, from up and down. And I was thinking, why not make this just a little bit easier on myself and use some rickrack for this one, because I think the white will go real pretty. And so after I get these pieces sewed on, I'm going to just put some rickrack, and I'm going to go up and down, up and down, and up and down, and weave it. And I'll use kind of her directions on how to place it. And then I'll sew it down, because time is of the essence, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I think I've 2.5 by 9 for your two white pieces. These are my white pieces. You use whatever color combination. You can use two different prints in your rickrack or your black, and you can make this any color you want. If you want to do it like the directions say, use red, green, whatever. Just make whatever you want. I just happen to like, since I had this black on there, I liked the inside being black. And so I went ahead and put it on the handle too. So you make it however you want it. A 9 by 15 for the lining, and 11 by 17 for the batting, which is too big, but you trim it down. 1.5 by 13, and 2 by 13 for your handle. And that's it. That's the sum of it. So I'm going to get the sewing machine. Okay. I think I had my sound turned down real far. I'm sorry about that. I hope you can hear me. Our directions tell us to use 1/2-inch seams, except when you're making the handle, and you will use a 1/4-inch seam. So I am going to sew these very quickly. I'm using a black thread right now. Really, I think I should probably use white, but maybe my black won't show through this. I will change that thread in just a little bit. 1/2-inch seam. Now, if you were doing it the way the pattern says, this 3-inch, you would fold in half and sew it first right here, right, raw edges, and then the white over it. But like I say, I am not doing it as the pattern. I'm just telling you that in case you want to get the pattern. Okay. My fabric is very hard to tell which is the right and which is the wrong. You know how that goes sometimes. I had a little girl that commented that for her to learn, she needed to see everything that I did and not to do it off camera and come back and say it's done. And I understand that, but she doesn't realize that I tried to do that on this video, and like I say, 1 hour and 40 minutes. And from start to finish, and that won't work. Nobody's going to watch a video 1 hour and 40 minutes. So, I'm just going to finger press this right now, but you'll want to open up your seams and just give it a good finger press. And then you can take it to your iron and really iron it down, but again, for the sake of time, and just, you know, you can do a lot of good finger pressing. I have a tool that I can use on it. It works really good, but I didn't dig it out. Then what we're going to do is put the batting behind it and quilt it. Now, quilting is just anything you want to do. If you know how to make curly cues and go all over the place, whatever you know how to do, I just am going, first of all, I do want to judge where the middle is so I can get them, you know, well, So I'm going to take my ruler, and I don't have this one pressed very good. And I'm going, if this is 9 inches, then we want 4.5 inches is going to be our middle, right? 4.5 inches. And just eyeball it. Take your marking pen and just draw you a line right there where that is, and right there. And since I have lines on my fabric, that makes it just pretty nice. I think I will just pick this particular line. It's not quite in the middle. And I'm just going to do a wavy line. And then I'm going to go 2.5 inches, 2 1/4, I think, really. And draw and do another line. and it's 2.5 inches from the edge. 2 1/4, we better say. And this is all the quilting that I'm going to do. It's just these 3 lines. I will put this on my piece of batting. I'm not going to pin it or anything. Could get it a little straighter, couldn't I? Now we'll pin it just briefly here. It isn't going anywhere, but I'll just put a couple of pins. Now I'm only going to do 1 line to show you what I'm doing. And this is where I want to change my thread for sure to I have a gray, and a gray is neutral. And that's what I'm going to quilt it with, and it'll show up pretty good. When I say a wavy line, I hope you, well, I'll show you. I don't know that that makes much sense to some of you, but, and getting my needle threaded is going to be a challenge this morning. Okay, I'm just going to start at the top, and my gauge is a line right here, and I'm going to start on that line, but I am going to, I guess you call it zigzag, and I'm going to move my machine up to number 3. I'm going to lengthen my stitch to number 3, so it'll show, you know, a little better. And I'm just going to go meandering down the hill. And I'm using that line as my guide to just go on the outer edges of it. The idea is just to hold your batting with your piece of fabric. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. And just go nice and slow, and that's what I call meandering, okay? Now I'm going to finish up the other 2 lines, and I will be right back. Okay, there's my quilting, just 3 lines, that's all you need. Looks kind of cute, it's just great. Now this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put this rickrack on and sew it on. I have it pinned. I'm going to have 1/2-inch seams over here, so I want to be sure and have it secured, but I'm going to go ahead and sew right along here. I'm going to sew it all the way down. And I just wanted it to go down, up, and down to just make kind of a wave, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. And I'll just start, kind of fold this up, and I'm just going to sew it in the middle. And I thought I might put a little zigzag stitch, but that might not give me a whole lot of room, so I'm not going to do that. You probably can't see what I'm doing, but I'm basically staying in the middle while I sew. And I am going to change my threads. Okay, be sure and put your needle down because you're going to have to turn at each little dip in your bric-a-brac. So just sew down about to the middle, then go back and sew up to the other point, and then back. Just back and forth and back and forth. Alrighty. Now, if you want to do the ric-rac, just remember when you're sewing it on that we want to go low up to your next mark and go up higher. I have 3/8 inch right here is how I knew on each side to put 3/8 inch. And then down in the middle. Okay? And pin it real good. And then as you're sewing, be sure and take out the pins. But just follow your ric-rac and stay in the middle and go use the same color thread so people can't see if you get off. And then just follow the middle and keep your needle down so you can pivot, and then pivot and go this way, down, up. Just follow right in the middle of that ric-rac and you'll have it made, okay? Now I've got both sides done. And now what we're going to do is we're going to trim the batting away, okay? Just simple enough, just trim, it might be a little bit off, so just do the best that you can. And remember, nothing has to be perfect. No. Whoever you give this to is going to love it, and they are not going to know if you made a mistake. Okay, now all we need to do is fold this up with the 9 inches up here at the top, pin it, my pins are so dull, I need a new box of pins. You can see my stitching there on the back side, kind of get a better idea. Okay, now make sure that your fabric is smooth down here at this end. Just take your finger and make sure it's not folded or anything. So a 1/2 inch seam on this side and a 1/2 inch seam on this side. Nothing to it. it's unusual to use a 1/2 inch seam, isn't it? But that's what the pattern said, and that's what we'll do. I've done so much sewing, my machine is loud. I had it serviced just not too long ago, but I have put on the hours, so I'm going to have to take it again. Just put your finger in there and make sure that it's not wadded up or anything. Okay, our next step is to make our base so it's got some feet on it. So you just put your finger in that seam and make sure that you have it straight across from this other seam, that you keep it in the middle, and kind of spread it out, open up this seam, makes it easier. Then just kind of push it down, just like that, until it's nice and flat underneath. It's still right across from this seam, so you know you got it in the middle, okay? And then take your ruler and go 2 inches to that point, right there, up there where you're batting, to that point. Mark your 2-inch line. It's hard to do on the batting, but just mark it the best you can. Take it out, put a pin at the bottom. See how bad my pins are? And then we're going to sew right across that line. I'm going to go back and forth to secure it. What we did. Now let's do the other one and then we'll trim them. Put your finger in there, open up your seam. Get it as flat as you can. Make sure it's straight across. Make sure it's not wadded up underneath. Pin. And then we'll mark 2 inches. And we'll sew it. Okay, now we're going to trim it in the directions said 1/4 of an inch, I think. But I left a little bit more. I thought it gave it a little more to kind of sit on. So I think I gave it about a 1/2 inch. You do whatever, 1/4 or 1/2, whatever you want to do. And mush it out, and looky there. Sits up by itself so nice and tall. And you've got already a perfect little basket. Just straighten out your lines. And now we're going to make the lining just like the basket. Now we're going to turn this right side out. Work our seams a little bit. Get it kind of straight. There we be. Now, I'll touch that with the iron to get my markings off. Now, if you have fabric that is directional, be careful, because I put, see, like this doesn't matter, but I made one that had gingerbread men and different things on it, and I put it down, and one side is upside down and one side is correct. So you have to be very careful. That's why I've decided to just use fabric that isn't, you know, and I don't know that you can see, but that has a snowflake in it. Okay. You just simply do exactly what we just did. Fold this up. So 1/2 inch seam on this side, but on the other side, you're just going to sew 1 inch down and 2 inches up from the bottom. 2 inches. And why 2 inches? Because remember, we have to make our little corners or our little points here that we just made, and we'll have to go up to 2 inches to sew that. So that leaves you 2 inch and 1 inch. That will leave you a 4 inch opening. And the reason you want that opening is that's how we're going to turn this basket, and how we're going to get right sides and everything together and turn it. So you got to have this opening, because that's how we're going to pull the basket through the lining. So this is important to remember. This side, you do whichever side you want. You can do it 1 inch on this side and go up 2 inches on this side and sew this side. Just make one of them, and I think that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and do 1 inch, do 2 inches, and then sew all of this side. 1/2 inch seams. Then when we have to go back and sew this opening, you don't have to worry about making a perfect 1/4 inch seam or 1/2 inch seam. Just sew it together. Okay, so we're going to do, and for this, I'm going to have to put my black thread back on. I don't imagine you can see that, but 1 inch down, and then measure this and make sure it's 2 inches. Okay, measure that, sew that, and then sew this one 1/2 inch all the way down. Okay, now we're going to make our bottom, whatever you want to call it, just like we did the other. And spread out the seam. Get it right even. Make sure it stays even with this. Just make sure you got it right in the middle. Gonna pin. And we're going to draw our 2-inch line. Now, I can't use my marking pen because I can't see it on this black. So we are going to use our chalk. And my chalk is a lot thicker line, so I'm going to sew right inside of it because that's not really accurate. And sew right on there. Do the other side. Now the other side doesn't have a whole lot for you to hold on to, but if you did your 2 inches, you'll have it. Try to get this right in the middle. It's kind of easy to get it crooked. Best way I know how is to just do that. And on the lining, nobody's going to see the lining. Thank goodness. So we got it off a little bit. Well, it's okay. But it looks like it's basically a good lining. Now we need to trim. Now we're going to leave this turned with the wrong sides out, okay? And you're going to, I have to read my directions one more time because every time I want to, oh, we don't want to put it in there yet anyway. We've got to make our handle. What am I thinking? Your handle, as you can see, this piece is smaller. But this is my right side of my white. And I'm going to take the right side and match it anyway with on the right side. And I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam. Not a half, a 1/4. And I'm going to go ahead and use my black. I think it'll be okay. What we're making is a tube, and you have to have this little tool that turns it, because it's too tedious to do it by hand without it. I can't really tell you how to do it because it's a puzzle to me too. I have to just kind of work with it, but I'll show you what it is. Now what we're going to do is, even though that's not, see how that is? We're going to pull this red over to the white, line up our raw edges, and sew a 1/4 inch. And that's how you make a tube. You have to kind of wiggle it around a little bit. Because, you know, that's not the way it goes. Just pull it over, raw edge to raw edge. And the idea of this, since one is smaller, is so that you have some of both colors are on top. There we have a tube. This is what you use. It's from Dritz, and you put your larger one in. Put your fabric, kind of start it in the hole, and then put this through. But that you put it all the way through, and then start pulling it up over itself. And I'm wasting your time, but there. That's how you do it. Now, you're going to just maneuver it around until you have about the same amount showing on both sides on the top, and then we're going to have to press it. It'll look like that. Okay, I don't have my iron set up, so I'm going to go do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've pressed it, and that's what it looks like. And now we're ready to put this stabilizer in. and just get it started. That's what your pen is for. So I've got to get my pen over this way. And just run it through. Takes just a little minute, but whoever thought of the idea of a safety pin was brilliant, weren't they? We've used that for many, many years. Now, remember, this is a little bit shorter on your ends, so get it about the same, right? About right there. Then take your pen out. Well, that should be easier than that. Okay. And if it needs to be pulled up just a little more, which it does. I had this problem the other day. I didn't pull it up enough and then I couldn't get a hold of it. It tends to okay. Now, I'm going to stitch 1/4 inch on each side. You don't have to. There's no need to. Because it's been ironed. Oh, no, it hasn't been ironed after I put the stabilizer in. So just very quickly put that under the iron. And then sew. Do the other side. And there we have that. Now, can't see it very good with the black thread, but that's the idea. Okay, now we've got our lining, we've got our basket, we've got everything to go. Now we need to put, before we turn it out and everything, we need to put our buttons on. And I ironed my seams down so they're a little flatter. Now the directions tell you to sew your button on. I did on this one. I sewed my buttons on. It was very, very hard to get through this thick seams. So when all else fails, hot glue them on. I chose the black because my red is not the right color red and I didn't like it. So I'll just show you real fast here what we're going to do. You want it right on that seam, okay? And they'll stay, they stay pretty good. Then, go over here to your other one. I think everybody's got a hot glue gun. If you don't, you'll have to sew them on. And sewing them on means they will be there permanently. You won't ever have to worry about them coming off. So, if you want to take the time, get a real big needle and good, strong, sturdy thread and sew them on, because it's going to take you a while. And you know, there's no right or wrong way to sew a button on, but I like to go crisscross. Now we're going to put one right down here where it dips down. Because that's about the center of your basket. And then we'll put one more on, and we're done with that. Okay, we've got the buttons on. Now, you want to take your handle, right sides and right sides, and you want to pin it at your seams. Just like that. You can either get a clip or a pin, whichever you want. I just pinned mine. And be sure, and when you pin it, leave your seam open. That just helps. Well, I am going to have to buy me some pins, aren't I? Okay, then pull it under your basket, and you'll have to kind of scrunch it down. Keep it with that seam, and pull it up. Put it right there on your seam. Right there on your seam. Okay? And this is all kind of scrunched up, but don't worry about it for right now. That's just what you have to do, because this isn't, you know, as long as your basket. Now, I always have to read the directions again. Place the quilted basket into the lining. I always want to do it the opposite way. And match up your seams. Keep your handle down there in the middle. And pin. I've got this seam to go by, and I've got my seam right here to go by, and I want to be sure and get them matched really, really good. Okay. Got everything. Now go over to the other side, pull this up to match this one. Open up your seam. And match that. I twisted that a little bit. Okay, then it's easy enough now to just go here and do a pin right here. And smooth this out. And a pin here. And what really helps is, look, see your quilting that you did? You know that that's the middle and the middle. So that gives you a guideline. Then you're going to sew a 1/2 inch seam all the way around. Easy enough, huh? Now, I have to take my table off here, my little table. Makes it easier to do. I have black thread in the bobbin and black on top. So we won't be able to see a thing. And I want a 1/2 inch seam. Okay, as soon as I get that down, and sure I got my inside seams kind of good. Now I'm gonna start just a little bit. Okay, this is real thick, so go kind of slow. So you can keep control over it. If it gets bunched up just a little bit and you have to kind of work it in, that's okay. That's just fine. Don't worry about it. Just try to keep that seam. Because you're also sewing, you know, your handle. And I'm going to go on my handle, I'm going to go back and forth one more time. That's where my handle is, and I want that sucker to stay. Now, I've got off of my seam a little bit. When I get here, I am going to go back over that handle. Okay, I think I am. All right, I think that's got it. Now, before we, when we first put the handles on around there, you can baste them on and secure them before. You could even sew a regular stitch. And I didn't do that. That's why I went around, did them twice. Because you want, you want those suckers to hold. Okay, now where it says to pull this out through here. And you think, oh my gosh, how are we going to do that? It's hard. It's really, really, really hard. But, and I see one of my buttons already came off. But I can fix that. Just start pulling. My first one, I don't know what I did wrong, but I did something wrong because I had such a terrible time pulling it out. And the second one I made, I did great. Okay, there's our lining. And we're going to close this now, okay? We've got this all, and we'll pull our handle up the right way in a minute. But we need to close this, and just my points are not right. Just a second, I gotta get that point up there correct. Now, I'm just going to pinch these together and just do a scant little stitch and call it closed. That's really, well, you do have a 1/2 inch seam, so I don't guess that's too much. Okay, now that's closed shut, and then we're just going to put, I've got a thread there, so I've got to get those threads. Going to put our basket, back our lining down in there, pull our handle out, and I would, makes it a little easier to sew if you press this. Just kind of press it down. And see, get it all smoothed. And then I have on black thread, so I really don't want to stitch with black. Well, I want black in my bobbin, but I think I want white on top. And I'm going to sew 1/4 inch down all the way around, and that way the lining will stay. And then you could, I suppose you could put another one just barely above it, 1/8 of an inch, if you want the decoration of it. If you don't, that's fine. But there is your precious little basket. Cute, 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 cute. And just work with your lining and get it back down, the feet of it, get it back down. And see how it stands up so nice? It really does. It's just such a lovely thing to put a gift in. I just so hope that you will make this. It is just so much fun. Thank you.